I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First, I'd like to apologize for being a little late. We were doing some interviews with for boards and commissions. This was the first round. We'll be doing a second round of interviews before the next meeting, so I'm sure we'll probably be a little late. So, Mitch, keep that in mind, will you? Okay. First thing is approve the agenda. Does anyone have any changes, additions, questions on the agenda items? I got a motion to approve by Dave Brusick, second by Sean Ryan. If there are no other comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, agenda is approved. First thing, Patty, are you taking this?
Sure.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Kyle Meyers of Abdo, Eick and Meyers is here today to present to the City Council, Boards and Commissions, the 2016 Financial Audit Report PowerPoint presentation. At the conclusion of the presentation, the city should take action to accept the 2016 Annual Financial Report. Kyle?
Thanks, Patty. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and audience. I'm Kyle Meyers, and I'm here tonight to present the results of the 2016 audit for the City of New Prague. Here are your results. Your opinion is an unmodified or clean opinion, which means there's no modifications to it. It's the best opinion that an auditee can have. The city did implement some new standards during the year, but they didn't have a whole lot of effect. You do have, if you have investments that have fair market value, there is a footnote in the financial statements. There's some levels 1, 2, and 3 disclosures that's new. But other than that, the other ones are just amendments to the prior GASB's statements number 67, 68. The city just wrapped up tax abatement with one of its economic development businesses here. So we did not disclose that since there's no future tax losses, but the requirement would be to disclose in the report what your basically abated taxes are for the current year. So that we just decided that wasn't material enough to show since you don't have that going forward now. Findings, basically the findings are under segregation of duties, where basically the fact that you have a small number of accounting staff, you don't have an ideal separation of accounting duties, and mainly in payroll and cash receipts functions, where some of the same people are doing some of the same things within those functions. So I just need to point that out to you. In some other areas, such as disbursements, we feel there's adequate separation of duties in those areas. Those aren't areas of note, but just those two are. One other note is you did have a finding in the previous year on a material audit adjustment, a prior period restatement, and that one is gone for this year. And then also in the 2 years ago, you had the financial statement preparation finding, and that was gone last year. So those are two other common findings in small governments that would be there that aren't there in this current year. The financial results is the total net position of the city increased by about $900,000 this year compared to a decrease of $200,000 the previous year. One of the biggest factors in that is because your EDA is a component unit. In the previous year, the city paid a $1.2 million contribution to the EDA, plus in the current year, there was a reimbursement due to the settlement on the Cedar Lake arbitration in your sewer fund, I believe about $1 million. So that caused the big imbalance here from an increase this year to a decrease in the previous year. City's governmental funds had a combined ending fund balance of about $18.6 million, which decreased about $300,000, mainly due to debt service payments and the chart loan write-off, and that was a part of that tax abatement issue there. And 39% of that total amount of $18 million is available for spending at the city's discretion, which is basically your unassigned fund balance. Total debt decreased by $2.6 million, or just under 5%, basically just due to debt, not any significant debt issuances during the current year, so that's a good sign your debt is decreasing. Here's your general funds fund balance over the last 5 years as compared to your next year's budget. What's recommended is you have at a minimum between 35 and 50% of the planned expenditures next year, and you can see the city has been, at least the last 3 years, right around that 50% level. So you've had pretty good fund balance set aside for budgets, next year's budget. And in addition to that unassigned fund balance, the city has put aside dollars for what's called unassigned fund balance for acquisition, replacement of vehicles and equipment, and renovation, replacement of public facilities. So you've got about $2.2 million set aside for these purposes for future capital expenditures. And typically, these amounts have increased each year as you have increases in your general fund balance. Then you set aside a certain amount each year. For example, the pool renovation, I believe that was like 400-some thousand last year. Now it's at 535,000.
That will also be transferred over to we've got a payment to the school of $1.1 million this year.
Oh, this year. Okay. So then that would just go away, and then you use your existing other funds to make up the difference between the million and the 535. General fund operations, this shows your budget. You budgeted to have a small decrease of 38,000 during the year. You actually came in at a positive 155, so you had a positive variance of $193,000. You can see both your revenues were over budget and your expenditures were under budget, causing a favorable variance there. You can see your licensing events were over budget by 104,000 of the 105, and your expenditures were under budget. Major departments that were under budget were general government, public safety, and public works in those three areas. So pretty good year considering you budget had a deficit and came out to the positive there. Here's a 3-year revenue history of the general fund from 14 to 15. You can see your tax dollars, levies have actually decreased a little bit from 14 to 15 and then kind of leveled off, maybe a slight decrease when you're looking at that many dollars. It doesn't look like, it looks like it might be a small decrease there. Your state intergovernmental has been pretty level, flat. And other, and then you have your license and permits, and obviously you saw the increase in 2016 from 15 for that over budget amounts. You had some more building during 2016 and 15. Expenditures by program, your highest department is public safety, followed by public works, then general government, then culture and recreation, other, and transfers out here. And some of the transfers out that are on an annual basis are to the golf fund of about 120,000 and some other transfers to other funds. Special revenue funds in the city. This year's fund balances didn't change a whole lot from last year. You got some loan funds here that there's not a whole lot of activity, maybe some minor expenditures or maybe interest income on the funds that are there. And the crime prevention fund spent down some of their fund balance there, $15,000 for the year. So not a whole lot of activity there. Debt service funds, and these are only your governmental debt, not the enterprise debt. Shows your total cash and investments as of December 31st. Total assets with the main difference between the two being your future special assessments to be collected. And here's your outstanding principal, maturity dates, and then the future interest. You do have one bond here, the 2006D, that the bonds have matured, so you can close this fund to another fund of the city once the debt has been paid off there. And it looks like you may, let's see, other than that one, which I think might be a refunding issue that we paid off in 2017, it looks like the other ones, the first day would be 2021, where you have a fund to be closed. Here's your debt service requirements for the next 10 years. It kind of gives you an idea of, which issues are dropping off the rolls here. You can see your debt will be at about $1,700,000 in 2017, go up a little bit in 18, back down to that same level here. This could be the fact that you've got the refunding issue being paid there, but anyway, it starts to drop off here, so it looks like about 2022, you've got some room here if you want to keep the same debt levels to have, if you need to do some major street projects or issue debt for a certain governmental purpose, you have some gap here to keep those level in future. Because, just a kind of a laddering for future planning on where your debt levels are going to be. Capital project funds, you have one major fund, and then all these non-major funds. You can see you have about a little under $3 million, down a little bit from the previous year. But again, these go up and down in any particular year, depending on if you have major projects or not. But you do have some pretty good balances in the trunk sewer fund and the general projects fund. You can see you did spend that one down a little bit during the year. And then some of these new ones, you have some minor deficits there. Those are just some miscellaneous expenditures that haven't been funded yet and should be funded in future years. Now on the cash flows for your enterprise funds, ideally what you should see is your blue bar, which are your operating receipts, should equal or exceed your the total of your operating costs and your debt service payments. And you can see for the most part that's true. I think in this one year there must have been a refunding here for this big debt payment, and actually you didn't use your operating receipts there. It looks like the same may have happened in 2016 here, but overall it looks like your cash balances, yeah, you can see the red bar here, that's your restricted cash balances, and now you have nothing left there. So these were probably used to pay off some bonds in the last 3 or 4 years there. So at the top, the green bar here would be what you have as far as cash, and what the line here, the bottom here, would be what the kind of would be the minimum requirement if you were to have a 3-month cash flow plus 1 year's of debt service payment. So it looks like you have about $621,000, the minimum requirement, and you have a little bit over $1 million. So you have a little bit of an excess there. What the excess would be, about $400,000, would be what you would have available to spend on capital improvements without possibly borrowing. So if you had a small project for $300,000 or $400,000 in the water fund, you possibly could pay for it out of your existing reserves without having to borrow for those. But then you have to watch and see what your cash balances are, and this number may change if you have more debt and more operating costs also. Sewer utility, again, same picture here. You did raise your rates here, so it looks pretty good for 3 years here. Your operating receipts exceed your operating costs and debt service payment. And you can see your cash balance has increased over the 4 years from $3.1 million up to almost $5.6 million over 3 years. And your minimum requirement over $2 million there. You can see the majority of this debt is your PFA debt, and that has gone down over the last 4 years.
Is that part of the Cedar Lake?
Yes,
That's where the.
well, that was received until, that was in the fall of 16.
Yeah, so that would be.
That is in that number.
Yeah, that would be included in that number.
Okay.
And you've also got the, in that cash balance is also the, sanitary sewer trunk fund cash in there at that $1,000,006.
Okay.
I believe that would be reflected in your total sewer fund utility balance. Is it not, Patty?
Pardon me?
This is the sanitary sewer trunk fund.
You're not talking about
Is the millions.
that, or
Yeah.
that's over in the capital project.
Okay, that's capital.
That's separate.
not in there, so-
That's separate,
okay,
yeah.
right.
That's in separate fund. So again, you do have pretty good balances there.
But that's also to address future debt payments that will
Right.
be coming, that's
Right.
ratchet up in later years.
Yep. Utility has been pretty good over a 4-year period where you got positive cash flow in your operations. And you can see the cash balance has increased from about $2.2 million up to $3.1, minimum requirement of 1.6. Again, you got that gap there that you can have, that is available to fund any smaller capital projects within the fund. Stormwater fund, again, same picture here. Operating receipts are exceeding the operating costs and debt service. And your cash balance was a deficit 4 years ago, and now it's gradually increased to a positive 192,000 with the calculated minimum requirement of about 111,000. Golf fund, you can see here that, now this is just operations. You can see, we talked about earlier that you got about $120,000 transfer that subsidizes this from the general fund, but just from operating and debt service here, you can see there's your operating receipts. Again, I think there was a refunding issue in 2016 that caused this to be a little bit more than the previous years. Used up some of your cash. And here's your cash balances as it's increased over the 4-year period. It leveled off a little bit in 16 to 15, but still it exceeds your minimum requirement of $342,000 by about $90,000 there. Your operations in your golf club, 3 years ago you were at an operating loss of 128, 102, and now 119. So it's been fairly stable over a 3-year period. Your change in net position, again, small loss, $30,000, $4,000, and $23,000. Again, after the transfer in of 121 from the general fund. Cash balance. Basically, this shows your change in cash, which in the current year was a negative $15,000, as you saw on the previous page. So there's the difference in what the excess to operations is in your change in cash. Kind of shows your transfers in, debt service payments back out, and your excess that went to operations in the current year. Because of the debt service payments, you didn't have any going to operations because of that. Ambulance cash flow, and not a lot of activity here either, since you don't have the ambulance activity there. This was just that one-time transfer of, I believe it was $600,000 to EDA. So overall, I think the ambulance fund has about $133,000 in cash, and the minimum requirements for operating costs in the fund is about $2,000. So that looks to be a pretty good balance there. And some peer group ratios comparing the city of New Prague to other similar sized cities. Again, the thing to look at is a comparison to those ratios. Keep in mind the ratios are a year old, since we don't have the data compiled for 2016 yet. And also look at the city's trends from 4 years ago till now too, so you can see your debt service coverage in your enterprise funds is 1.3. That's been pretty consistent over $1, and it's pretty much comparable to the peer group. Debt per capita has gone down. It's higher than the peer group, but again, you got your $30 million in the sewer fund. That brings that up a lot. It's an enterprise debt that's paid for by charges. So you can see that's come down over 4 years. Taxes per capita at $524, that's right in line with the peer group. It's remained fairly stable over 4 years. Actually has been less than what it was 4 years ago. And the peer group has been increasing. And that was a year ago, so I'm guessing this amount has got to be up towards that $524 per capita. Current expenditures, $925 versus $688, but that has gone down from previous years also. Capital expenditures, again, in any 1 year you could have that number being high or low, but you didn't have a lot of capital projects during the current year. And the last two percentages show you how old or new your capital assets are, and I think it looks like your governmental assets are a little bit older than the peer group, but not by much, and your enterprise fund assets are right in line with the peer group, just a little bit less than 61%. So.
County would such like case council doesn't recall, who are you using in the peer group?
It would be a city's population 2,500 to 10,000. So it's basically like we have 4 classes of cities that are under 2,500, 25 to 10,000, and 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30. So that's what your peer group is. And keep in mind, this would be all cities in the state of Minnesota, so it could be some metro cities too. It's not just South State cities. Those are some future accounting standards. I don't want to get into the details. They're pretty, just more informational here. I don't think they'll have any major effect on any future reporting for the city like 2 years ago with GASB 68. And again, here to answer any questions you have on my presentation. And again, thanks to the city staff for their assistance during the audit. And the process does get better each year. I mean, the city staff has really improved in getting prepared for the audit, and there's fewer and fewer adjustments each year. So,
How many adjustment entries were made?
I could not tell you offhand.
Patty?
We're probably about 12.
12, which is significantly less from when I started.
Yeah.
So must be me, right, Patty?
It is.
Yeah.
And I think of those 12, there's probably a lot of those are just the reporting entries to get to the full accrual statements, the government-wide statements, which are your debt, capital assets depreciation, where the city prepares all the schedules, then we just make the entries, and they're not part of like the general fund or the debt service funds. They're just more of a tie-in from the modified accrual to the full accrual accounting. So a lot of those are just what we consider reporting entries, not accounting entries.
Okay. Good. Anyone have any questions for Kyle? I know I did, hard to believe, I did read the management letter, and I want to thank you for another nice job, and Patty, congratulations on a nice clean audit. I was very, very pleased from what I read. And like I said, I think what Kyle mentioned on the issues with the cash receipts and payroll, that's no different than any company, private or public, that has a small number of employees to cover the workflow. So congratulations. Any questions for Kyle or Patty?
I was just kind of curious if Mike could answer the water utility fund, the cash balances on page 14. I don't know if we can get back to it though. Where was that outlay of cash? Where would that have been? Do we know?
For 2016,
Yeah.
that would have been in the AMI metering. We paid cash for all those this year, or in 2016, rather than doing any bonding.
Okay, perfect. That's right. Okay. I didn't remember that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the 2016 audit financial report.
A second.
I got a second by Amy Jurek. If there's no other comments, questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Congratulations, Patty. Another job well done. I suppose you're going to sneak out of here now, aren't you? Hey, Mitch, can you get that on camera sometime when she walks out? Okay, next on the agenda, we have, I see Fire Chief Jeremy Tikalsky is here. If you want to just bring us up to speed on the appointment.
Well, hello again. Sean Anderson retired from the fire department. It'll be effective May 2nd. I have 23 years in. His replacement just happens to be his oldest son, Brandon. Just happened to work out that way. Brandon's a New Prague graduate, attended Alexandria Technical College, and he is a cabinet maker. So I'm requesting the approval to take on board Brandon Anderson and start his training as a firefighter for New Prague.
So this will be number 6, right?
Number 6.
So
That's
we
it.
had 4 retiree, we had a replacement one, correct? And then we had 4 retirees and then another one coming in August, correct?
Gary will be retiring in August.
Yeah. So then that's where you get the 6 to get your staff back up to 30.
We'll be at 31 for a short period
Right.
of time. But so far the schooling will be paid for by the state, so it should work out really good. And the timing works out really good for everybody.
Okay.
Quite a
It's,
year.
it's good to see that the next generation has stepped in there. You know, we're very fortunate. I think we had 17 applicants you mentioned before that we're very fortunate in town that people are willing to serve on our fire department. Any questions for Jeremy? None, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve Brandon Anderson.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Amy Jurek, second by Dave Brusick to approve Brandon Anderson as the new fireman. So if there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, guys.
Ken, are you taking this next one?
I am. The council will recall back on April 3rd, this is Back on April 3rd, we had set a public hearing for tonight for a vacation of a drainage and utility easement up by chart. We're trying to accomplish making it clear that that water line that was in the old 7th Street right-of-way by chart would be vacated and become Chart's sole responsibility to own and maintain. So for the hearing, and lo and behold, we did get a notice of objection from CenterPoint Energy. I did include their letter on the back side of the memo, and they indicated that they had a gas main in the easement area. Consulted with the city attorney. He noted that due to the location of the gas main, we actually did not have statutory authority to vacate that right of way any longer. So we can no longer move forward with the hearing for the vacation. So ultimately, the action we'll need tonight will be to have the council make a motion to cancel the public hearing scheduled for tonight and to withdraw the request for the vacation of this easement. Now, we are not done with the action on this issue completely at this point. As the council will recall, we were also going to enter into the document, which is also in your packet, titled Water Service Line Maintenance Agreement. And we are modifying this agreement to basically be worded that the easement will be maintained, but it will clarify that the water line within that easement is property for Chart to own and maintain. It still achieves the same end. We were just attempting to vacate that easement in order to clear up an easement that we thought we didn't need. Turns out we can't do that because of the gas line easement. So we are working with Chart on the water service line agreement. Had a little back and forth between our attorney and their attorney here, even up to today. I don't know if we'll have that back at the May 15th council meeting or not, but we're working through that, and I think we're close to something that we'll put forward in front of the council sooner than later. So that'll be the ultimate action, and we don't need any action on that tonight. Basically, all that you're looking at in the packet is a draft of that agreement once again. So all the action needed tonight would be a motion to cancel the public hearing and withdraw our vacation request.
Okay. Any questions for Ken? Okay, I guess I'll make a motion as stated by Ken.
I'll second it.
Second by Jenna Tuma. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you, Ken. Moving right along. Mike, are you going to take this, lead into this?
I'll give a little bit of background. Brian, if you'll come up, we'll have Brian Jurdy here, our engineer with IS&G, that what we have tonight is the third and final phase of the 3-year improvements that were slotted over 15, 16, and 17 to undertake various improvements at the Memorial Park baseball field, hopefully culminating in the work this fall and at the latest early next spring, so that we're ready to host the 2018 state indoor baseball tournament. I'll let Brian talk about the bids, what was included, what's occurred, and then I'm probably going to have to go through with you some options to address the final revenue piece, so to speak. So then I'll let Brian talk about it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, turn that over, or just push it over and talk directly into the chip work.
Honorable Mayor and Council, on you'll see in your packet in front of you, on Tuesday, April 13th, we received bids for the 2017 improvements to the ballpark project. The day of the bid, we received a total of 6 bids, with the lowest base bid amount coming from Healy Construction out of Faribault. What's in the base bid amount, I guess summarized in general, is completing the plaza area, constructing two new dugouts and a new press box, 2 new light poles, new backstop and netting, as well as fencing and some miscellaneous site improvements. At the time of the bid, we also had 3 alternates that we included. Alternate A1 was to prep and paint the exposed structural steel at the grandstands. I don't know if people noted, but since that, the canopy structure was constructed, it's always been that kind of dark brown primer on the steel. For the longevity of it, we felt it should get painted to protect the steel long term. The second alternate, A2, was to construct the benches within the dugouts with all maintenance-free materials so that they'd be, lasting, much like the construction of the dugouts. The last alternate, A3, was for signage, and that's new block aluminum signage that would be similar to what's on the pool building. And it would be to identify the facility. So it, on one side of the building it'd say City of New Prague. On the other side of the building it would say Memorial Park Baseball Stadium. So that was all included for alternate A3. The budgeting on the facility had projected the bids for this year at about $300,000. Unfortunately, and we've kind of summarized this in the memo as well, the bids came in higher. In analyzing the outcomes, I guess, the excuse me, the big differences we see was we had an increase in or the inflationary effect since we budgeted it was higher than what we projected. A second factor, when we originally budgeted the project, we were going to utilize or try to utilize volunteer labor to lay the block for the 2 dugout structures in the press box. Through the progression of our meetings, we ultimately determined we felt it was better, being it was city property and just the nature of trying to organize volunteer activities to do that much work, that we would include that labor in the base bid amount. So it shifted that $30,000 into what we bid out. And the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is market conditions. Contractors are so busy that we're, some smaller projects are being influenced fairly significantly by contractor availability. Guys are just really busy right now. You can also see we had a low bid of $343,000. We swung all the way up to $453,000 for the other bidder. That's a pretty big margin in this bidding environment that it's affecting how people are pricing things right now. The other thing that, again, we included in the council packet just as a comparison, ISG, we currently have been working with Janesville School District. Coincidentally, they love the design that we implemented for the concession building and how functional it was. Ultimately, we bid a building that was very similar to that, was it 3 days after this project came in? The exact same building was $90,000 more than what we had it bid at 2 years ago. So, for comparison's sake, I think that was worth noting. The other thing that was also part of that project was we bid out the wiring for the new light poles for that football stadium. So there's just 4 new light poles going in. Those were being purchased direct by the school district. So the lights and poles were not included in the bid. It was $100,000 just to run wire from the building to the 4 towers. For our project, thanks to the assistance of New Prague Public Utilities, we put all new wiring in and all new lights on those poles for $80,000. So The bid environment right now is very aggressive and unfortunately affected these bids. So I guess that's a little bit of a history of how we got to where we are today, and fortunately Mike's been helping on the number side.
Mike, where do you get the 120? Because obviously, I think the last number I remember seeing was 300,000. This is 343. Am I missing something?
Yeah, that, if you take a look in the back of your package, that between what we've collected, what's still to collect on the project, on the summary that Patty had, dated about April 16th. We should ultimately have receipts of about $351,000. The cost of the project to finish out the remaining components that you see in Brian's summary sheet that's color-coded in yellow is about $470,000. So we're short of about $120,000.
Okay.
To bring closure to the project. Excuse me. I know the baseball committee is here to talk about a few things, but let me just provide a bit of a summary and as a prelude to what they might have to say, is that contrary to what we saw the final outcome come out to be, is back in February of 2015 when you approved the project, it was approved at about $957,000, and in there was a gap of about $64,000 between revenues and expenditures, if you recall that you adopted that. We were also looking at reconstructing the infield and the outfield turf. We pulled back and decided not to do that, and have been diligently working, Glenn and the park staff, with the guidance of the golf course staff, to take care of that in a different fashion, with all of the aeration, the seeding, the slit seeding, top dressing, and all those kind of things. We've been able to fill in various areas of the field, we've been able to roll the field in that, and we've been able to restore the turf to a level that we think by next spring it will be satisfactory. We took a look at it last summer when we made that decision, but we did that in the hopes of being able to save dollars in the construction project. And had we not just encountered this latest bid, we'd actually been bringing the project down from what was originally $957,000 down to around the $830,000, and now we're right back at shy of, we're right at around $1 million. On the funding side, we're actually, if you take a look at revenues, with the exception of the $25,000 that was committed in the original revenue stream to be raised from the 2018 Minnesota State Amateur Baseball Tournament, I went back and have taken a look at the revenues, specifically those that were identified between the baseball groups and the donations they were supposed to raise. And if you pull out the $25,000 from the state AM, that number would have been originally about $133,500. What's been collected to date in this area totaled 126, with still about 56,000 to go, again not counting the 25. So if I absolutely knew that we could count on the 25,000 from the state amateur tournament next year, I could have reduced what I'm ultimately saying is the 120,000 we come out tonight. We could reduce that by 25,000, and there's hope that if that happens, that still will come our way. And so effectively what we're doing is we're front-ending the balance in order to finish off the projects we want to recommend. But we'll receive everything from the school, the utilities went above and beyond, the city was in for 500,000, and then we had in-kind donations, but we're short by about 65,000 in cash. So on the funding side, the baseball group has done what they set out to do, and assuming we bring in the collections that we reasonably expect that we will, the donations from the various baseball groups, we should hit those target numbers. And the only number we didn't have in the final numbers right now is the 25,000 from the end results if we have a good baseball tournament next fall. And I guess in looking at what I've got in front of you, I didn't want to go quite so far at this point to totally judge how that's going to turn out, because that's a kind of a by guess up by golly a little bit. But if it does, then it would reduce any monies that we would kick in to reduce the balance and replenish part of those funds. So before I go into what I think some of the options are, or address any of your questions, I think there is somebody from the baseball community that was going to say a few words. or so I thought. But, I know they're bashful, but they're not quite
Tony's
that
bashful?
They're not quite that bashful. But we put them on TV here tonight.
Honorable Nikolai Mayor and City Council, this is my first city meeting in 22 years of being a New Prague resident, so I'm pretty excited to be here. I'm speaking here on behalf of the baseball community. Former head coach Tom Wetchke is also here, and a number of people in the back who care a lot about the program and what's going on with the city fields. So when we met last week and kind of found out that the bids had come in a little bit higher, that was somewhat disappointing, but yet I also think there was a lot of positive, good news that went on too. And what that was about 2 to 2.5 years of planning between the city, between the baseball community, between the school, and I would also like to throw in the business community too, and how everybody really has stepped forward to get as far as we have gotten today. And we can see the finish line very, very close. And I'm not a business person by any means, but Brian has done a great job in teaching us along with Mike. And we've done the best we can as a baseball community, go out and raise the funds that we said we would, that we need to and would continue to do. Before I let Tommy talk, I would like to just throw in one piece that I think sometimes gets lost. We as a city know what we need to do. The school knows what they have committed to do. The baseball committee has committed dollars, and that's the big three. But I do want to give credit to one group that I believe has been a huge part, and we may not see it, but it's our business community. We have a number of businesses who have come forth to financially provide resources, but also in-kind labor, things that we would have to pay for, that they've said that they will do because of their background in their business. So either professionally they're going to step forward and do some work or donate some materials and goods. And I don't have some dollars in front of me, but we just had one with the press box, and I won't say the name, but it's going to be up to $10,000 worth of donation to help get the press box built. I want you to know that as a city council, because your businesses out in the community and the New Prague area are really stepping forward, and I think that's very important, not just for right now, because I'm not helping to build the facility for right now. I'm helping to build the facility for the next 50 years. Because I've been here 22 years, and that baseball facility looks the same today as it did 22 years ago. You're doing the right thing by helping to make this a baseball facility for our grandkids and great-grandkids, so I commend you for that. But I did want to just put in a special shout out to our business folks. I'll turn it over now to Mr. Wetchke.
Thanks for having us tonight, and I would echo, I appreciate Mike's ability to kind of keep us organized from a city perspective. Our group with the school district, our community members at large, our businesses, those types of things. I just want to touch on the baseball committee. And we kind of formed several years ago with this project. And at our meeting last week, when we obviously found out that we're in that neighborhood of $120,000 short, we had some very good discussion in terms of what can we do as a baseball committee, a stadium committee, to keep moving forward. Our goal always was, when we got to this final stage in 2017, when the final third stage of the project was going to be built and completed, our goal was still to continue to try to get out there, raise funds above and beyond what we said we originally would do with our business community, with our baseball community, and then also the community at large, because obviously with sporting events and things like that, we want to use that facility in the future to try to bring people to New Prague. So that's a big piece. At our meeting, we talked about several ideas, and we will continue to build on those ideas as we move through here the next, over the next course of the year. Fast forward to 2018, August, when the state tournament is hosted. We feel like we We owe that to the overall baseball community. We owe that to the city of New Prague. We owe that to our communities that surround us in terms of taking those steps forward to raise as much money as we possibly can to reduce the number of the 120,000. We're still committed to do that, and we have kind of a tiered approach over the course of the next year to do that. As Tony said, we are very appreciative of what the City Council, the City of New Prague, the Utilities Commission, and our local businesses and individual residents of our area have done so far. We see no reason why we can't continue to build upon what we've already completed and take that next final step forward. So we do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and as Mike went over the numbers, just to provide a little bit of backdrop. So I'll turn it back to Mike if there are questions or the next step.
You have in front of you tonight an identification. I spent the better part of last week and this weekend trying to get as creative as I could to bring some solutions and some options to you. And so on a sheet in front of you tonight, you've got about 5 different options with various sources relating to the general fund. First one was just take care of 100% of our general fund reserves. This last year, if you remember from Kyle's audit presentation, we ended up with revenues over expenditures and an increase in the overall bottom line of about $155,000. So that is one alternative, is just go right to the general fund reserves and take care of it there. Number 2 is we could use a combination of that fund balance and or the use of some of the funds out of our 2017 budget unallocated contingency that the council has. In there is you've got $73,000 that was budgeted in the adoption of the final budget. That was conceptually targeted to address the demolition possibly of the National Guard Armory building over here with undertaking the asbestos removal and then trying to do the demolition. That's what the budget was. We've not spent any of those funds at this point, but that would be something if the council reprioritized or re-chose to program that for the balance of the baseball project. Some part of those could be used in conjunction with a fund balance to hit the 120,000. Third option is to use a portion of the budget contingency, a small amount, 20,000, and then rebudget the $100,000 in next year's 2018 park budget capital expenditure. Part of that just pushes off and delays till next year. I think our challenges with some of the personnel changes that you've added and modifications we made, I'm not sure we're going to have quite the building permit excess because we've got that programmed at a higher level this year. So I'm not certain we're going to have a lot of that, and I'd rather not probably push the expenditure into the 2018 budget, but it is a possibility. 4 would be some combination of any of those as an alternative. And then the other one Patty and I had talked about that she reminded me of today is that when we made the decision to deal with the chart tax abatement situation this past year, we did not make, because they did not have, they didn't create the number of jobs that we were supposed to, is that we had the second half of the chart tax abatement dollar amount that we collected but have not earmarked or used or chosen to use at this point. So that's sitting there as money at year-end 2016. So that dollar amount, again, was some combination of the budget unallocated contingency or the fund balance would generate the 120,000. And I guess part of it, if I was to look at giving you a recommendation as you look at the various alternatives, and I can tell you why, but I'd probably take a look at the latter option, number 5, with those dollar amounts remaining from that chart tax abatement, subject to final verification with the auditor. I've not run across Kyle, so we think we're pretty safe in being able to use that, but I need to make one final phone call to him to verify that we're not out of line in doing that. And then probably the remaining $56,000 would come out of the budget reserves versus taking that contingency away unless you prefer to reallocate and deal with the National demolition project next year. So I don't believe there are any of those, and I talked with Terry Heat, kind of ran it by her. She said any combination really wouldn't do anything that would cause us any concerns rating-wise or anything. It's a small enough nature that it's not a huge concern. So with that, I would stand to answer any questions about any of the alternatives or
Are we still getting a repayment from Chart?
yes.
That is not in our budget anywhere, is it?
No, that is not either. And that, I don't have it in hand. It is coming. We have a meeting with them next week, and I'm expecting to.
We came up with a stadium committee. All of us are gonna be, eventually we're gonna move on and time goes by, but that stadium committee will create positions. We've already started that process of, a field committee, a concession committee, scheduling committee, those types of things. So that there will be people in place, not only for the 2018 state amateur tournament, those positions will remain in place through the baseball stadium committee, which directly, at least I'll speak for myself, we answer to you as a city council or whomever is sitting in these seats 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. And I think that's the ultimate thing, the collaboration that's gone on between the school, the city, and the baseball groups. I think that's one thing we've all learned is we can get more done working together, and that, we see that because once 2018 stops, to us, I think Tony said it, we're about this whole thing, seeing this out for the future, and that's a great point to make, and I think that's what we want to have people in place to keep track of those things, continue to raise money as we move forward, because you're always going to want to do, improvements, things like that, because we know that there are costs involved to the facility that we're building, and the baseball group needs to be a part of that as long as that stadium is standing.
So you foresee one individual that would be in charge of fundraising, a committee chair or something, of fundraising, and that would be their individual goal or project?
I would see that moving forward with our committee right now. Right now, I think we've all stepped into, I don't think we have one person that's designated as maybe a fundraiser, because I think we've all put on that hat, because obviously the scope and depth of the project and the cost of it, we needed all hands on deck. But I would foresee that moving forward, that yes, I think there needs to be, an umbrella approach to that committee, and different people being responsible to answer questions from the city council, from if it's, Mike's position, or whatever that might be. So yeah, I think that's something that would be in place moving forward. Right now, and I know Jerry Walerius is here, and Mike Stika and Jerry Plombeck for the 2018 State Am, they have all their pieces in place. Really what we probably would look at is what their template is to answer to their state amateur board, and basically moving that after 2018, moving that into place for the New Prague Memorial Baseball Stadium piece to it.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? You may.
About 4 years ago, I think, the council decided on that one of our priorities in the future was going to be to look at all of our athletic complexes and to try and, not to try, but to evaluate each and every one of them, not just baseball. We're going to look especially at soccer, and then lacrosse came up, and then pickleball, and then the fields, etc. That we were going to come forward and do something that was going to improve all of those athletic activities over the next many years. Well, this was the first one that really came forward that we had to do something with. And I would hope that when it comes to looking at soccer fields, looking at all the other fields, all the other activities that this community has, wants, and probably has a right to expect from the city, that we get the kind of effort from all the other athletic groups that we got from the baseball group. It has been phenomenal with what they have done, what they have come forward and said they would do. One of the first meetings we had 3 years ago with this committee, one of the baseball committee guys, Nick Schenecker, came to me and said, when you come forward to do all the other things you need to do for the athletic experiences for our kids, you let me know. We will do the same thing for the rest of them. It's things like that, when you see the community come forward, not just these 16 or however many people there are in this group, but you see the businesses come forward. I know some of them that personally that have given $10,000 in kind work, some cash, that have come forward to get this thing done and get it done right. That it really makes me proud to know people in this community that give so much for some of the things that they love. And being that this is one of the first ones, I think, you know, we didn't know how much this was going to cost when this all started. And if I had known then, I probably would have said, gosh, $1 million? Is that field worth it? But when I look back and see what this group of individuals did, what the community has done, I feel we got a hell of a deal for what this is going to be. And not only that, but like Tom alluded to and Tony alluded to, this now is set up so that when this is all over, we will have a group of people that will take care of that field for many, many years to come, such that they're going to do the scheduling pretty much themselves. They're going to take care of the maintenance. If they need to have something from the city, somebody in that group will contact Glenn or whoever his successor is and let them know this is what we need. So the momentum is in place to handle this the way I think it should be for many years to come. So I would like to thank that whole group for all that they've done for us. It's been wonderful working with them.
I agree. You know, I wasn't implying that they weren't doing it.
No, I know.
I didn't know if you were
I
speaking
was doing
towards
this
me because you were looking at me.
I know, I'm sorry.
He was getting on a soapbox.
I'd like to just say I was at the home opener.
Yeah. No, I said it
I support
mostly
the baseball.
because I want the people out there
Good, yeah.
to know
Right.
what is going on here. And I didn't mean to.
No,
at you
and
as
that's
kind
why
of
I
a
asked the
nice
question
comment.
myself too. I wanted the audience to.
Tom, would you like to add something?
I forgot one key piece, and it goes back to Sean's question. We added a new scoreboard, or added onto the original, so that's a newer scoreboard. We have advertising up there, and some of our local businesses, again, we're on a, help me out, 3-year? Okay, so we're on a 3-year payment, which that will re-up every 3 years. The other advertising piece that we are looking at, working obviously with the city, but at the park, is Brian mentioned there's a knee wall, which is basically runs all the way from the third base dugout behind home plate all the way to the first base dugout, where when we approach our businesses in the next, this summer basically, just say from now until, we need to, we are going to sell advertising across that knee wall, which again would be tentatively right now in 3-year increments. So that is another way that the baseball committee wants to generate revenue as we move forward. That revenue goes into the stadium, or from that stadium committee perspective, then where does that money need to go? If that's working with Glenn and the Parks Department, with Mike and the City Council, and how those monies are allocated, but that's another piece that is kind of important, so I just wanted to throw that in there, because it is a significant piece to what we've built into the future in terms of generating revenue from advertising.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I do. I think this is one of our gems of our community. It's a unique asset. Many small towns don't have that. In the past, there's been very minimal money put into it to maintain it and keep it improved. So I think we need to continue on and put the money into it for the future. We've always shown that we've been fiscally responsible, as the audit shows, and if we can do this without a tax impact to the people, which we've done as continuous throughout this project. And just because it's community-led, I think it's a great way that it's been progressing and happening. I'm not really in favor of option 1. That makes me nervous to spend more reserves. Option 2, I don't really want to give up the armory work that we plan to have that done. Option number 3, I really don't want all the park budget to go away for next year. So I guess if we can work out option number 5, to me, that would be in my opinion, the best way to go.
But part of that is fund balance versus
Yeah,
versus the council contingency.
It's just a part of it, though. It's not as much as
just a part of it.
100%. Right.
And in taking a look at that, I take a look at that fund balance with Terry Heaton as far as what we need to have and what we need to justify in that process. And so, I wasn't hesitant had you chosen that option, is that we had a good year last year, and we've got the appropriate level of fund balance, and that wouldn't have injured it significantly at all in doing that. But yeah, we don't have to take as much, and we've got other assets that we can use. I think that works.
Okay. Any other comments?
I agree with Amy, I like 5.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Mike, do you need to have us tell you what option we like, or do you want to talk to, obviously you said you have to talk to Kyle.
Yeah, I just need to verify that you can make that choice now, that if you approve the resolution accepting the bids and approve the resolution with the understanding that to finance the balance of what's needed for the project, that would generally come from option 5 as presented to you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion by Dave Brewer, second by Sean Ryan to pass the resolution of the bids along with extending the additional $120,000 funds. Is that correct, David? Is that how you want to?
Yes, to award the bid to, excuse me, Healy Construction Company.
Okay.
And
Option 5.
option 5.
Option 5, unless there is a problem, and talk to Kyle, we'll have to address it. I got a motion and a second. If there's any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Tony, if it's going to be another 22 years to show up, I'll guarantee you I will not be sitting here. So come join us some other time, will you?
I'd love to.
Thank you guys for all your hard work. Next. Okay. Ken, are you taking this?
I am.
I got beat up at K-Check this morning about this film thing. They said, is there a movie, Chuck Nicolai Mayer golf game or something going on? So can you apprise us of what's going on here?
Yeah, so last year, I think it was last fall, did we have the original request for a much smaller production come in? And this particular request that we had come in the spring that is prompting our further policy discussion here is actually a full-length motion picture. They would plan to film here in New Prague for about a 2-week time period this summer. So we wanted to get our ducks in a row. I don't have necessarily the name and everything to give to you at this point. We would anticipate doing that at the next month's or next council meeting here in May. But our city attorney office wanted to have a couple of things put in play here before we entertain an actual specific item, but it would be a feature film that would be filming here in town for a portion of their movie shoot. What Scott's office is recommending is that we have a filming permit application, which a copy of is included in your packet. And what that would do is basically provide for information on, all their needs on law enforcement, closing roads, use of public facilities, parks, road right-of-way, etc. And put that all on paper. We would then, from a staff level, who would ever need to be involved, meet with them and determine costs and determine other needs that they have. That would be put into another kind of an outline agreement here that is termed the limited use agreement. That would then go in front of the council for final approval. And there would be details in there of X number of hours of police protection or officer being on duty that would be needed. They'd have to pay for that. Reserving portions of parks and the reservation fees, any other associated barricades that might be needed from Public Works and so on. Jim, Glenn, and myself went over these applications and the draft limited use agreement over the past couple of weeks. Along with the application, made some tweaks, and that's what we're putting in front of you here tonight. Ultimately, the application form and the fees, and I do want to note on the back of the front page memo is the resolution that would adopt the application and adopt fees. So basically, following some dollar amounts that city attorney had suggested and what other cities have in place for different levels of fees. So a documentary, city attorney's office noted was typically a person with a handheld camera. They aren't really blocking traffic ever. They're just kind of go up to a location, shoot mobilely, and they're out of there. Maybe a small handful of people involved. Low impact commercial is still not a full feature length film. However, larger crews, you maybe actually have a trailer placed somewhere and other possible use of public right-of-way. And then the last one is a $1,000 fee that we're proposing, plus actual costs, I should note. All these are just the application fee that helps cover staff time to meet with the applicant and go over their needs. So this last one would be under the high impact commercial, so $1,000 application fee plus actual costs. And again, we would have the specifics for you on this particular item. Once we have an application, we can have them fill out and bring forward to you as soon as we can. So ultimately, just need the resolution passed to approve the application and those fees. And it's kind of a new territory for us, obviously. We actually have met with, I met with one of the producers of the movie, and then we had met with the director a week and a half ago, roughly. The film has some local ties to New Prague. The other thing I can note is that it is a movie that has been purchased and would air on Netflix. It's a feature-length movie, so it wouldn't be in movie theaters, but fairly large budget, second largest budget in Minnesota in the past. I think he mentioned 7 years. So again, we'll get into those details, but we needed to have some framework here in order to address that. And again, all those details with the limited use agreement, all that would be reviewed by staff, city attorney, and then ultimately to the council to review with all the specific items on what these movie filmers would predict. And we may never get another movie, we don't know. But this was pretty big, and we needed to make sure that they have insurance to cover any potential needs for filming in a park or filming in a roadway, these types of things. And it's kind of a new territory, but not new to a lot of other cities. So we borrowed, a lot of these materials are borrowed from other cities, but I think they also work well for us.
Okay.
So this was for Netflix, and it was just like a Netflix original movie, not necessarily a series or anything that would be ongoing.
Just a one-time.
It might have multiple seasons.
Right, one-time thing. That would obviously be kind of a different animal altogether, because you could have recurring costs for what you're talking about, Sean, but this would be kind of a one-time thing. Roughly 2 weeks in New Prague. They have other locations in St. Paul and other cities where they plan to be filming as well. So kind of one time in and out. We don't see a whole lot of disruption, and we'll have more details for you later for this particular one, but we want to make sure we're not out any costs for, you know, police staff to be on a particular shoot for a particular reason. Public Works, you know, helping with barricades if they're needed. And they're more than willing to pay for that. We just need to have the mechanism to cover that, track that, and make sure that we can accommodate it, even if they pay for it.
I understand.
Obviously, you have limited staff. So.
Yeah, no, that's great to cover those costs, but what, do we get any type of script review or something to make sure that they're not shedding New Prague in a bad light, or the residents of New Prague as small town hicks or something that, I mean, I'm just I'm just throwing out ideas, and, you know, I know this person
Yep.
has a connection to New Prague, I'm sure that's not it, but I mean, if this moves forward, I'm sure that's.
We would always have representatives for the movie come to you before they would be reviewed. We would have the director here with limited use agreement when we come to that point, or a producer, but in this case, the director would like to come down. I get what you're saying. We actually asked the question, will the name New Prague be in this particular film? He said no.
Okay.
There's just bad feelings either way when you do that. So they didn't even mention the name. They said people get upset when you give your town a different name in the movie or use the name. Some people don't like it either way, so they just don't mention the name of the town at all. It's just used as a backdrop. He said you will obviously be able to identify that it is New Prague. The one benefit we would get out of this is that they've offered to provide for some footage of New Prague, and we've talked about, I think it was at the EDA meeting maybe, kind of a promotional movie.
Yep.
They're able to provide at no charge general community shots. They have a lot of drone footage and other things they shoot that are just of New Prague, and, you know, streetscapes and parks and different
So we
things.
can use it on our website?
That we can use on our website or in a production of a advertisement.
Theaters coming.
Yeah.
So we do get benefit out of that, that they offer to provide as well. So I think those are things we can obviously put in the agreement specifically, but I do understand one thing we asked, I asked the attorney's office is, you know, how do we know these aren't, you know, adult films or something like that, that would also give a bad
Sure.
connotation, and some of those fall under our adult use ordinance, which is in our city code already, but that is a good question about, you know, maybe it sheds a bad light on New Prague, or
I was just
those types
thinking
of
like,
things.
you know, Michael Moore, when he did his anti-gun thing, and he got into the faces of the local bank because they were giving away a gun
Yeah.
with a new check, and, you know, just all those type of more documentaries, but yet they are full feature film, you know, that was in movie theaters, and that's the only thing I was concerned about.
Yeah, so
If
you
we
would
have
know those
review
details, they have to
of
come
those.
back in front of you.
Right, okay,
The application and agreement will be in front of you before it gets approved.
okay.
So Ken, is this listed in our fees manual already, or is?
No, this resolution would add those fees to the resolution.
And even like the additional services, so Glenn or,
Oh, we have the hourly fees for
We do
those
have
other
those
costs
already
right now,
listed
for
in there.
police with vehicle, without vehicle, public works vehicles and equipment that might be needed, yes.
And again, on the resolution, too, can you add D? Can we get royalties out of this?
I don't know if that's common or not, we could.
Be something to think about.
Well, yeah, I mean, actors, and they get those kinds of things. I think this is a good idea.
They obviously have crews of people they bring into town is one of the things they kind of touted, you know, for that 2-time period there. They encourage them to eat at local restaurants and shops and whatnot, so. But they also are union things where they do have to provide food and other things. So, you know, spin-off is maybe not 100% out in the community, but they try to encourage that.
Mitch, don't try to think about leaving us now.
yeah, he's
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution to adopt a permit for application associated fees for filming motion pictures.
We got a motion by Dave Brusick,
I'll second it.
second by Jenna Tuma. If there's no other comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Bring on the lights. And Mike, be prepared Wednesday, because I'm sure they're gonna be asking you about it. Because they said they told me I knew. And I said, I have no clue what you're talking about.
I'll tell you, stay tuned for the next meeting.
That's right. I think are we taking a break now? Oh, Glenn's here.
We can take a break, that's fine.
No, I'm just kidding. You've been so quiet,
It's in my nature.
Okay.
In front of you, you got the memo for seal coating, seal coat bids that we advertised for on March 30th and opened on April 21st. We had 3 companies that turned in sealed bids for this year's project. As you can see, it's Allied Blacktop, Pearson Brothers, and Farner Asphalt. Best price was Allied Blacktop. Allied Blacktop has bid on every one of our seal coat projects since I've been keeping track of this in 2003. And this is the first time they've ever been low bidder. So I guess when you think about it that way, it is their turn, I suppose. But they were quite a bit lower, $1.10.5 per square yard, compared to Pearson Brothers, who has done it since 2003. They were $1.18 per square yard. So Public Works budgeted $145,000 for the streets, and along with $29,000 budgeted from the 2015 CIP project, because that project will be seal coated also this year. That's kind of a new program we started about 3 years ago, I believe it is, that we seal coat the second year that project's been done, or second lift's been on. So we got a total budgeted amount of $174,004 for doing 373 square yards of streets. The total price comes to $151,797.16, and then also $8,800 for striping, which is 10th Avenue Southeast. That's going to be seal coated, so that's got to be restriped after the seal coating project. So as you can see, there's also a little graph attached just showing you all the years that we've been kind of keeping track of what we've paid for seal coating. You can kind of see the trends. It's been up and down, mostly depending on oil prices is a big contributing factor to the price of seal coating. So it's just kind of interesting looking at all that and kind of comparing it all. So staff recommends the council approve the low bid of Allied Blacktop at a cost of $1.10.5 per square yard, and approve doing 137,373 square yards, and the line striping for a total project cost of $160,603.08.
Mike, how is this going to be financed? Are we bonding for this?
This is in the budget.
Oh, this is in their budget? Oh, okay.
Yep, we got $145,000 that we budgeted in special projects, and then also $29,000 that was
Okay.
part of the 2015 CIP bond.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that, or? Seal coating's proved to work out really well for our roads. It's something we want to stay up on top of. You start lacking on the seal coating, and all of a sudden your road starts to dry out, starts to crack up, and it will start to fall apart on us. I think we've proven that seal coating's really been a benefit.
I just have a quick question, Glenn. If we're gonna redo Pierce Stripe 10th Street or whatever, what's the criteria for a crosswalk? I know right on the corner of like 10th and 3rd, a lot of kids trying to get down to Memorial Park, especially during the summer. There's no crosswalk there. I don't know what the criteria is if we have to go to the state or whatever else, but
No, there's no criteria as far as going to the state, especially on that road. That's our road.
okay.
The criteria is we kind of follow the state's guidelines. And the state right now, or has been for a number of years, started pulling back on crosswalks and advising communities and cities and government agencies to do the same. The theory is there's studies out there that have proven that a crosswalk is more dangerous, a marked crosswalk is more dangerous than an unmarked crosswalk or an unmarked intersection. Theory being, and I've talked to a number of people that have called me and said the same thing, is, well, I was in the crosswalk and they didn't stop. The crosswalk has a tendency to give people or the residents a false sense of security. We did many years ago, because we were looking for different ways to pull back or to save some money on the budget. That's why we got rid of the squares and went with the lines, which is acceptable. Saved us quite a bit of money, actually, as far as paint to do it. And also been kind of talking with the state, going to different conferences and reading everything we can get our hands on as far as studies they've done to say, you know, yeah, some people want a crosswalk at this intersection, but I don't think it's a good spot for one. Because if there's not a crosswalk there, it's gonna make that person stop, look both ways, and wait. Instead of, as the comments I've gotten by people, well, I was in the crosswalk and they didn't stop. Well, I know it's a law, and I wish I could be the one saying, I'm gonna get that person that didn't stop for you, but I can't do that. Nobody can really do that. So that's kind of the way we kind of look at intersections and what are we gonna do with them? Are we gonna put a crosswalk there? My personal opinion, we got intersections that I think we should pull the crosswalks out of. Again, for no better reason than I think it makes people stop and really think about crossing that road. Instead of just going, well, there's 2 white lines there, they gotta stop. The law says they do, but will they? That's the concerning part. So if that answers your question, I don't know if it did or not.
No, it does. I just, and I've had people that have mentioned it before, and it just, the fact that you were gonna seal coat it and you started talking about restriping it anyways, brought it to mind. I thought I'd ask you if there was.
We get calls from residents that say, you know, I think crosswalks needed here. And, you know, I try to explain to them as I just explained now.
Sure.
That's kind of the theory behind it. We're actually pulling back, or the state's telling communities and government agencies, you might want to start pulling some of these crosswalks out and actually making the person stop and think, I gotta watch for traffic. Instead of that false sense of security that, well, there's white lines there, or there's white squares there, they gotta stop. That's kind of, that's our rule, and that's the way we've been looking at a lot of these.
Sure.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Clint. Any other comments or questions? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the bid with Allied Blacktop.
Second.
Second by Sean Ryan. If there's no other further questions or comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0.
Thank
I
you.
do have a question, Oliver Glenn. Do they, when they come in, are they gonna do certain areas, like at a day, or how do they normally schedule it out?
They'll talk to us before they come in. They'll give us a timeline on when they feel they're gonna be coming in. And that's when we talk to them, or we look at the map with them and go, where are you starting? What's your plan at this point? At this point, they're not telling us that.
Right.
And they probably wouldn't even if we asked.
Right, yeah, it's too early. I
Yeah.
don't know how you.
That's way, and naturally, that's always been with Pearson's. That's their instruction. That is part of our contract with, that goes out to these seal coating contractors, is that's something they have to do. It's like a pre-construction meeting.
Okay,
So we visit with them and come up with their plan.
thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Looks like next on the agenda is the second reading of the ordinance with the change of the word and days, which would allow Sunday liquor sales to happen. Is that correct, Mike? That's correct. So does anyone have any questions, concerns about that, or issues? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance as amended.
Second.
You got a second by Amy Jurek. There's no other comments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. And that will go effect what, May 11th?
Yes, we'll turn it for publication and be published on May 11th.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mike, I think you're gonna take the next one?
Yeah, you should have a handout in front of you tonight that we put in your packet, as we said we would, a draft of the initial contract for private government between the city and Tracy with Associates 1 LLC. We have not gone through this with Michaela and Julie Eddington, the attorney on the matter. Hopefully we'll be doing that tomorrow. But what I did provide in a brief summary that you can take with you is where on the first part, as was done by Michaela, and I asked her, is those elements that the council talked to, or that we talked about, is how do we make sure we take care of those on the list that was provided to the attorney, she's gone through the different sections here. And so you can take a look at, I don't know that I want to read each and every one of them, but you can see that Michaela provided a bit of a summary as to specifically what section will be addressing the various components, whether it's the amount of the TIF, whether it's the completion, the developer's financing. Then I know there was one specifically on the, as I recall, that it can only be used for a senior housing project, and she included that wording. Just trying to take a look at where that was as I previously read this.
Section 4.
Yes. Okay. And so I think as we go through, that was her comments on the first page, and then the attorney Julie Edding to take a look at it and try to highlight essentially some of the same elements from her perspective that were key contract pieces. But we will be going through this internally ourselves before we have a final conversation with the developer, in the hopes that we can get this assembled to be able to bring back to you at the May 15th meeting. When that comes back to you, is it would be an action item for the HRA, probably following the council meeting versus preceding the council meeting, because Ken will have the overview of the conditional use permit pieces. So what I would ask you to do is just take a look at these provisions. It didn't seem to make sense to go through each and every page in the contract, so I asked that we provide this summary. It was provided today while I was out of the office, and so I was able to get it and provide it to you. So if you would take a look at that, if you've got any questions, please give my office a call, and we'll try to hopefully make sure that we can, when we go through it before you finally adopt it, we'll make sure we point out all those sections.
Okay, and as of right now, we're planning to do that May 15th?
May 15th, and everything, if everything works out well with the developer.
Okay.
So that's the schedule. Good. We also included in your packet, I think, some of the overview pieces as far as what the different floors look like, the makeup of the gross building square footage area, the site plan on an aerial photo, and then a kind of a composite architectural rendering of what the facility looks like. So we included those in your packet as well.
Yes, very nice. Very nice piece.
And their open houses tonight, right?
Yep, that's going on. I imagine it's done now.
I
but
believe
it
they're
was-
probably done.
It started.
It was at 6 o'clock, yeah.
Did we send anyone over there?
No.
No, I was gonna go over there if we got done early enough, but
Okay.
there was, I could just tell you, we had one resident from the adjacent townhome development at the meeting. So, not a huge turnout. The majority of the people were from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church at the meeting.
Yeah, they're wondering about that road.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, they may have had nobody come to their meeting tonight. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Is that all for that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Again, as Mike said, if you have any questions or issues on that, just get a hold of Mike and he'll get you an answer. Next on the agenda is the mayor's summary of city administrator performance. After the last meeting, we had a closed door meeting regarding the evaluation of city administrator Mike Johnson's performance. It was a unanimous decision by the council that Mike has done an excellent job for the city of New Prague. And from my time as mayor, I've seen Mike grow as a manager. He's always been very good as a city administrator, but I think he has grown as a manager. He has done a better job of delegating, and he continues to work hard on that. He is also, I think, has grown in his public appearance to the, not public appearance, but has grown in perception on the public much better after taking over. I think he came in at a tough time when everyone knew Jerry Bonzak for years, and Mike stepped in, and Mike and Jerry are a little different as city administrators, but I think Mike has done a great job of helping the city and the city council make sure that we do things the proper way, and make sure all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. And for that, I want to thank Mike for another successful year as a city. It was great to see the audit report reflected that also, so congratulations, Mike. I will promise you one thing, Mike, we will do it by year end this time. It was my fault, but there's no reflection on your evaluation. It was just Chuck being Chuck, I guess. I'll take the blame for it, but I will get that out to the council in November, and we can get that done at year end or first meeting in January. But Mike, I want to thank you personally and also from the city council for a great job this year in 2016.
And his pay is retro, or is
Yes.
retroactive.
Right, and he got his COLA raise and it retro back to January 1st. So, thank you. Consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions, issue on the consent agenda?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The minutes of the last meeting, Glenn, you were at that meeting, weren't you? You weren't.
No.
Great.
Yeah, Glenn kind once in a while shows up. Bruce, we're very, appreciative that Bruce showed up.
Nice catch.
Anything else?
Yeah, you do.
Well, in the minutes where it says commissioners, should that be council members? If you're gonna change take Bruce's name
She's used to
out.
doing my minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're working for us now,
Said
not
Commissioner Stewart,
Bruce.
Commissioner Ryan.
That'd be the other side.
I didn't catch that. Nice job.
Not that big of a deal, but if you're gonna go back in and change it.
I will go
Remove
back and
Glenn's
change
name.
that. I didn't realize I did that.
Yeah, remove Glenn's name.
Let's put an asterisk by it,
Okay.
not there.
Anything else, David?
Yeah, there was one. Oh, on the public hearing for Carboni's. What is M2, Mike, do you know?
That's the legal name of the entity. There are a couple individuals that, if you take a look at it,
Yeah, I see now, Mason and Maddie.
but the license name is M2 Food Inc., doing business as Carboni's Pizza and Sports Bar with the individuals listed below.
Mhm.
Okay.
Why the change?
Yeah, why does it have to come to us? Doesn't the license go
Because
with
it is
business?
it is a new operating entity. And so it will effectively be a new license.
New owners or new, just new name change?
No, new business owners,
Okay.
not property owners, business owners.
Right.
I'm
right.
still leasing it from.
Correct.
That's what I was wondering.
And under our city code, all new licenses are required to go through the public hearing process.
So the other license will go away then after this one?
As soon as we define with them, one of the things we're trying to, as you can see in the application, it says May of 17 to March 30, or March of 2018. We are tying down exactly what the anticipated date of demarc will be.
Okay. What's that?
We have to make a motion on public hearing.
Well, no, it'd be in the consent agenda. Yeah. Okay, anything else in the consent agenda? Questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Amy Jurek. There's no other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, consent agenda. Now we get to the fun part. Miscellaneous. Patrick? Nothing. Mitch?
I actually have something.
All right, whoa, he speaks.
Just wanted to inform the council that the school board facilities are all fully functioning now. So if you are planning on going back or not, the new HD cameras are in place and working, so.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's good to know. I guess we'll have to make a decision. Maybe we could probably discuss at our May 15th meeting, Mike. Put it on the agenda. Thank you, Mitch, for updating us. Jeremy, you have anything?
I'm worried about the HD cameras, but we'll wait on that.
Jim?
I had a meeting today with the chamber regarding the marathon. We are just getting primed up and ready to take care of that over the weekend. And then also I just want to inform you on our hiring process. We do have 2 background packets out to candidates just to start the background process on those. We haven't made any conditional offers at all. I have to talk to Mike about that. That being said, I also received another letter of resignation today on one of our officers that is going to be going to Leesburg County. I passed that letter on to HR, and it looks like he would be done on your next council meeting on May 15th.
Okay. And we did talk to Leesburg County about this, so just a little FYI that Dave Teets is going away.
I think the one I got back when I mentioned that is that Touche, I think one of our officers was a dispatcher, was she not?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I suppose we stole from Waterville. You gotta be careful, but at least we're staying on Leesburg County, so that's the good part. Anything else, Jim?
Nothing.
Okay. Bruce?
Nope, just construction projects are kind of in full swing. You probably noticed by your office over there.
Yeah.
So we're putting a lot of those facilities underground this year. And there's also going to be another mainline feeder that'll go right down Main Street on the south side of Main Street from the power plant down to Lexington. So everything's going good so far.
Good. And what's the game plan on getting everything buried?
Well, it kind of depends on how project lineups, throughout the year, but we use that section as fill-in to slowly migrate towards all underground, and we're about 3/4 of the way now, at least, so.
Good.
Just keep picking away at it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Glenn?
Just to keep you informed, baseball field's looking pretty good. We're gonna continue top dressing this year. Naturally, come July 5th, it's gonna be the big tear down, getting rid of what's there as far as the dugouts, the press box, the backstop, things like that, getting ready for construction. So that's gonna be big event. Public Works is waiting for Mother Nature to cooperate so they can start crack sealing, because that dictates when they can seal coats. So, and now, which is a good thing, of all the streets that we've redone, there's more crack sealing to be done. So it just takes longer. So, and that's something in our contract also. They can't seal coat till we're done crack sealing. So.
What about, who's in charge of Main Street? Do we fill the potholes there, or does MnDOT?
MnDOT.
So
We've done it already at MnDOT's request, but MnDOT, and they just got a call from us, I believe it was Friday, that they should look at it again. So it's very possible that they could call us tomorrow and say, we're just not going to get there for another 2-3 days. You got any material? Go ahead and throw it in there.
Okay.
And we've done it. So, but it's MnDOT.
Okay, I just had a citizen ask me about it, and I told them it was MnDOT's.
Yeah, it's their road. We try to help them out, as they've done for us, so.
Okay.
We just wait for that word. We don't try to take control of anything. So, that's all I got.
Okay, Ken?
Can I ask one question, since the trail that goes by the golf course driving range through the kind of wetland area?
Yep.
To connect to the neighborhood, it's got a couple of real dips in it.
Yep.
Is it gonna be redone, or is it rehabbed, or?
We are planning on that, along with the trail through Greenway Park, of redoing those two in the future. Now, the future being, we would like to try to make them last till 2021, when we're redoing streets on the northeast corner of town, because if you got a contractor in town that's gonna be doing some tarring, most times you can get a better price on a project, a little project like those 2 trails would be, than if you just put it out for bids today and have somebody come in to redo them. So the plan is to redo both those walking paths, and hopefully in 2021.
It seems like a tough area to try to put a trail in there and keep it stabilized and not have it move, so I don't know if there's, I mean.
Settlers Park Trail is gonna teach us quite a bit because we had, I wouldn't say as bad as soils. Now, I wasn't involved in building that trail off the back of the driving range and then over towards the cul-de-sac, I forget what it's called, Fairway, I believe it is. 9th Street cul-de-sac. And so I don't know what the materials were, but Settlers Park Trail, we put that fabric in there and then that mesh or woven mesh, and that's so far looking like it's really gonna do the trick. It just makes it all kind of hold together better. And if that's gonna prove to work at Settlers, we seriously gotta look at it for that trail going through that swampy area. Because
Wick might be able to help you a little bit too. They've done some trails for us and they have used, it's almost like a landscape fabric.
Yep.
They put underneath it and that.
yeah, this is almost like a plastic woven mesh that we used on Settlers, and I'll tell you, some of the documentary or documents that you see on the internet talking about this product, it's unbelievable. And there's a lot of cities that have used it in swampy areas, so it's not like we were the first one to ever try it.
Tough area, but yeah, good.
Yeah, so that's the plan right now.
Ken?
Just a quick update. I think some people have wondered how many residential home units we've issued for the year, and we're up to 28 residential units for the year as of the end of April. So pretty good numbers, and that does not include actually some other permits that have been picked up more recently. I should say that will be picked up. All the townhome units out in Raven Stream, where the 18 units, only 6 of those units have been actually picked up and paid for, so we have 12 more units out there coming as well. So really good numbers so far this year. And we have...
Keep that new guy busy, yeah?
We're keeping busy, and we're also working through right now the bus garage building permit plan review that the council already looked at the conditional use permit a few months ago. So yeah, we're keeping busy, but yeah, very, very positive, you know, through the first third of the year here.
Okay. Mike?
Just holding this affordable senior housing agreement with the developer so that we have that for the 15th. And I'll give this to Andrew's conference so I have this.
Okay. Deb?
I'm good, thank you.
Sean?
No.
David?
Yeah, I've got a few. Mike, at the last meeting, you said something about Scott County wanting to know if you wanted any information on, I think it was a CDA to do something like the Phillips Square complex. Could you find out what we can get from them should we want to ever have another senior residence here? Okay. Yesterday, I had gotten into a discussion with a woman here in town asked me, do you know anything about organic recycling? And I kind of said, no, what's that? So she explained, she says, that's recycling of all of your organic materials. Kitchen scraps, meats, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. I says, oh yeah, who's doing that? Well, the school district here in town is doing it. The Lakers just picks it up from them and takes it out to recycling place, or you can just dump it into your regular trash receptacle. They'll pull out the orange container and it gets recycled. Oh. So who's doing the pickup? Oh, Lakers is. And they get the bags from Scott County. So I thought, geez, I better look into that. Well, I tried looking up Scott County on their website to see if there was anything about organic recycling. There wasn't. I take it Glenn's a little familiar with it.
No?
He doesn't want to be.
So
I'm curious.
I got it, well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because you're probably gonna hear about this from somebody else in town. But at any rate, I called Lakers, talked to Rob over there, and Rob was very informative. He says, yes, we are picking it up from the schools here in town, just the public school, not the Catholic school. And he says, yes, they are green bags. They are supplied by Scott County. However, they take the bags, the green ones, out to Mystic Recycling Center. But he says, we had to coax Mystic to take our stuff because they were maxed out in their aid. There isn't anybody else that we know of that will take this organic recycling material. Because Mystic is full and there just isn't anybody else around. So I says, so you just pick it up and put it in your one of your trash haulers? Oh no, nobody will allow that stuff to be put in with their regular trash. I said, really? He says, oh yes. So he says, I have to go myself, pick it up once a week, and take it over to Mystic and dump it. He says, it's mean stuff. You don't want to handle that. It stinks. He says, well, I can imagine. So I was told that, gee, you know, one of the reasons of doing this organic is because you can reduce all the materials in your landfills. And it'll probably reduce your cost of recycling trash. So I asked Rob about that. He says, well, he says, I don't think it's going to reduce the cost of recycling trash. And pick this stuff up, it might be about the same cost as what your trash would cost, because nobody wants it. So just to let council and anybody out there know that it may be coming around, but I don't see where it's going to be very cost effective. And I think most residents, just if they don't put it in the garbage, they go down the spinner. And it goes up, it becomes then Glenn's responsibility anyway. The third thing I have is, since Jeremy is here, I have to apologize to him because I forgot last Saturday to go to the fire hall to hear the wonderful, what I think was a wonderful presentation about the history of the fire department.
Had a good turnout.
Good. I wish I had not forgotten.
I won't do it again. That's all right, thanks.
That's it.
Okay. Jenna?
I just have one, and it's probably to Bruce, the service area with Minnesota Valley. So it's out there in the public. I'm wondering, maybe with Mike, if we can do some kind of a update on just where we're at and what the timeline looks like and what we're learning about it, just to be transparent to the public so they can learn about it and hear about it. And then, I don't know if we need to do an open house or something to get people's feedback or what you feel about that, but I think it'd be wise to do an educational piece to just and to address some of the concerns that people are saying, you know, this dual meters and these costs, and you know, I think people are reading their bills wrong and they're not doing a fair comparison, but it may be just to try to get ahead of it.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Amy?
No, I don't have anything.
I don't either. So I guess with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Sean Ryan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here, everyone. Thank you. Pass 5-0.